Alright, here we go, 8 o'clock. Monday morning in Tokyo. 30 seconds ago this truck backed up. Palm Sis, it says. That's one of the NTT related companies. It looks like there might be people, some work out there today. If it gets noisy, we'll shut down the outside mic. Did change the mic. The mic is on. So if I would wear it, just a minute. Hey. The mic is now on. It's changed. Somebody after the last couple of streams, actually, somebody has been typing, microphone settings into the streams, and she sent me an email the other day. So I have now put in those settings. It's something to do with noise gate. I forget what they were, but I just copied them in. Is the mic okay? Whatever, I'll turn off the settings. Doesn't matter. Okay, a straight carving stream today. We've got to get this block finished, God, we've got to get this block finished. So straight carving scene today. We do have a show and tell. It's one of those show and tells that is a continuation, something we saw the other day. Something we saw the other day reminded me of something, and they just, they bump into each other. So. And it'll be mixed. It'll be about a few minutes of delicate carving, because all I've got left are the eyes. And then once that's over, it's going to be time. We're going to spend a lot of time this morning on the persuader. So things are what they are. You can hear the background noise while you're speaking, and it goes silent when you're not. I don't know. If it's not good, again, let me know. It's a noise gate of some kind. I've got no idea what's going on inside. ComSys, electrical systems of some kind. I don't know, we'll see. That's funny, the way it's turned out with this one is here we are. We've finished the print, and we're just going to put the eyes in at the very end, just like those old guys supposedly did. Or not. Bring it to life. Yesterday was a sad day here in Asakusa. It poured rain, and I mean pouring. All the bars and stuff who were hoping for good business, because we're come to the end of the quasi-lockdown that we have here in Tokyo. And the bars were really ready to get going on it, and it poured rain all day. They were still fairly busy, but not what they would have been. The earthquake, the earthquake. This is funny. This is funny. There was, I hear, an earthquake. Went for a walk. When was this? I don't remember the time schedule here. Today's Monday. It wasn't yesterday. It was Saturday, I guess. Saturday afternoon, I was here. Ishikawa-san, Sugi-san were printing upstairs. We had a guest in the afternoon. And I knew it was going to be raining on Sunday, so it was my last chance to go for a walk. So I went for a walk on Saturday just before dinner. Left here around 5 o'clock or so. Sugi-san was still upstairs printing, but she's got her own key where she goes. So I went out for a walk, left her. When I got back, about 6:30, it's okay, I'll use my key, let myself in, come up, and there's an email from her. And she was on the train at that point on the way home. And it's quite a frantic email. Like, the building seems to be okay, but you better check and see what's going on and stuff like this. And I'm like, what is she talking about? So I wrote back to her and said, the earthquake, the earthquake. And I'm like, what earthquake? And while I was walking out there, I was in Sumida Park along the river. I hear now that there must have been an earthquake while I was walking out there. Didn't notice it. Didn't notice it. So interesting, She said the building shook back and forth for about 30 seconds, and she said she was terrified, not decided what to do. Should she run outside, stay there? Was she going to die? What's going on? Her home, I guess, is a lower, normal house. So it's the first time for her to be in a reasonably strong earthquake up in a higher area in an older building. And I spoke to her this morning again about the same thing, and she said it just shook back and forth and back and forth. And Dave out there walking around didn't even notice it. Okay, now there's no way that that's going to be the final carving on this. The expression of the dog or a person, anything, is so delicate on the eyes, and the tiniest little variation can change expression. But I just can't see it at this level. So that's cut. We'll leave it now. We'll clear. At test printing time, I will be able to see that a bit more carefully, and there may be some shaving, whatever required at test printing time. Okay, that's all the cutting on this. No, it's not actually. It's not the outside of the lines hasn't been cut. What should we do? Should we clear the inside first? Yeah, let's do that. Let's clear the inside first. Okay, as you know, we've got a compressor on the mic here, so it should be okay. There shouldn't be too much trouble, I think. Let's have a look. Earthquake time. Get the camera away from the table. Change my glasses. Okay, let's give this a go. The ladies upstairs this week, they've been doing test printing on the 4th print in the series. This is the 5th print, and they're doing the 4th print now. And they're complaining again, really, really complaining. I know John-san, our young carver, has just carved it too shallowly again. And we go through the same thing every print. And he's a really, really good carver. But he's got a stubborn streak. And because he knows that in the old days, back in the Meiji time, the carving was quite shallow, he wants to do it the same way. And I get it. I get it. But we don't have Meiji paper and we don't have Meiji printers. And they spoiled so many copies during the test printing, you know. Prints that would have been spoiled from blots, from shallow stuff. So we called him over, and when, you know, all of us again, and we've had this same meeting before, you know. And he says, okay. He bows his head and says, yeah, I see, I understand now. We've had this same meeting. It's clear what's in his head. He's thinking, come on, just, Dave, tell your printers to print properly, is what he's thinking, you know. Why should he change? Just tell the printers to print properly. This is a hard area. There's a knot under the wood here. There was a knot in the original tree somewhere in this area, and this zone here is hard. I would have loved it if the whole face had been this hard. But right now, this is going to be a bit noisy because this is like concrete, this area right here. round and round me. What's the most expensive mistake I've made? Other than starting this business, you mean? I don't know. I don't know. Not sure what to say. Back making the Poets series, there's one summer where I was too slow and I lost 100 prints because they became moldy, stuff like that. I don't know. You just toss it aside and start again. I don't have anything dramatic to recount. I don't really know. The story I mentioned in that video, when I made the Kuchie reproduction, I carved the key block, sent it out for dubbing, and they destroyed it and had to recarve it. So I'm not sure. There's lots of episodes, but nothing dramatic. But yeah, the most expensive mistake would be starting this business, absolutely. I think what they're doing, when we normally point our camera to the left, where we have the floater, it looks to be floating on top of a platform, and the platform is the entrance to the underground place where all the cables are connecting. And the sound we just heard, I think they took the cover off that thing. It was those Vancouver souvenirs from my dad. My dad's closet. I think this place is gone now. I'm not a casino fan. This is a place my mom and dad used to go. Sorry about this picky work. It's got to be like this. Pick around and around and around and around in all these holes. And then what happens next, of course, after I finish chiseling away most of the big work, we've got to get in there and clean this all up. So this is going to be, it's going to take a while here. It's going to take a while. Is that it? They're done? That was easy. There's a part that's not cut there. Copying the block, you mean this conversation? It's all in that video. There's a video that explains the whole thing. And I've got the broken blocks right here in the shop. It crushed because it was plywood inside. It's like one of these blocks. So the cherry itself would probably not have crushed. But what got crushed under the process was the layers of the soft Lawan plywood inside. So top layer all buckled down. My own foolishness, whatever. But it worked. The proof of concept, it worked. We dubbed the block, microscopically. Okay, that's done, that's done, that's done, that's done. Down to the bottom here. Do I wish I had an apprentice I could dump busy work onto? Not really. I know I'm happy doing what I do. You mean like to do this? Do I have an apprentice to do this part for me? Not really. I know I like doing it, It's fun. It's not a question of, oh, geez, I got to get through this. This is no fun. That's not what it's like, If we like doing this, it's fun doing it. If I had an apprentice or if we had people working here, just the goal is to get them up and running as well. That bag video we were talking about the other day, where the apprentices are actually assistants to the workers. It's an interesting idea. I guess we could work that way, I guess. But there's a downside, to doing it that way. If we switch to a system where Dave had an apprentice carver who did all the sort of not interesting parts, if he did that, with the idea that we would be a productive team, we could get more work done, earn more money, stuff like that. The problem with that kind of a system is that your focus then starts to move towards the productivity. How can we be more productive? How can we get through this faster? How can we make more prints? And sort of, it's a slippery slope, It makes sense. It's a business. We have to make money. We got to pay our rent. People want to live. So finances and money become an important thing. But all the years I was doing it by myself like this, the fact that this is not productive and it's a waste of money, it wasn't a factor, So I don't know. You can't ignore the business part of it, but if it starts to take over, then it becomes sort of a, what's the point, This is our Oshibori truck to show. Yes. Tricky bit of wood here, it's splintery. Okay, I guess that's all the damage we can do at the moment with the larger chisels. We'll save the outside for later. So what's next? What's next will be this. Some of these areas you can see this is already done, nicely smooth and flat, cleaned out. I've now got to do the same thing with all the other areas. We've got to flatten off the bottom of this. If we don't get these smooth and flat, then later on during the printing, and this is really a thing, during the printing, the pigment really builds up on stuff like this. These lines, pigment will build up on those lines and catch there and move up and up and up and up and up. We have to get rid of those bumps. They should all look like this, smooth. So that's my job for the next X hours on this print. And we'll use this, I think. What games does play at the casino? Dave doesn't go to the casino. I got this shirt when I was from my dad's closet. After my dad passed away, I got some of his clothes. This is from there. I'm not a casino type guy myself. If my mother is here, she could talk to you about that, because she, not so much this year, of course, but she and Dad used to go out to the local casino bit by bit. Do we use sandpaper? No. When I couldn't sand in there without damaging the carved areas, absolutely. We have a series of little chisels that do this. They have flat, they're bullnose chisels, flat bottoms, and they go in there and they slice it off very nicely. This is going to be too big, yeah. This also is one of the pleasant parts of the work, if it's a good piece of wood. When there's bad grain or the grain is fighting you, it's not so much fun sometimes. But overall, this is a pleasant part of the job. Peaceful. It's also, the result is pleasing, this smooth surface, the result is nice. So it's not just the work itself, it's the thing you leave behind you is, yeah, it's cool, This also is one of the places where in the early days for me, this was tragedy strikes many, many times. If I wasn't keeping the chisel sharp enough, before I had a better feeling of how the wood grain works, you'd be pushing, and then all of a sudden the wood would snap, and then bang, away you go, and whoomp, smack up a bunch of what you finished carving, It's been a while since I've goofed up like that, but Do I suffer any physical conditions due to the nature of your work, other than poverty? Not really. Not really, no. The thing about me is, I remember I am a carver, I am a printer, I spent yesterday in front of the computer screen programming a mail interface. I do so many different things here that it doesn't matter. The body is always moving around, doing different things. If I was doing only this 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, you'd have to get some exercise, absolutely. There's something I remembered actually too, before I forget. I got an email the other day. It's about the dude's outside. The dude in the window in the far distance there, and the guy on the light post nearby. Someone said, Dave, can you give me more information about this? I'd like to learn more. So what I did was, I'll pop this up just for a second here. You can screenshot it if you're one of the people who were interested in this. What I did was, this is the guy who was right outside, the one who's blocking the sky tree. And this is his art name. It's Takahashi, how does he pronounce it? It's an art name. Tatsuya, Takahashi Tatsuya. And I took a close-up also. This is the board. If you're interested, if you're one of the people who sent the email asking about this, do your screen capture now. This is the information panel for this guy. I won't go through a bit of it. His name is Hashi Tatsuya, born in Showa 14, born somewhere, I can't read the place name, Oden, I don't know. His real name was Hashi Yoshihiko. And in Showa 38, he came to Asakusa to start in the different theaters, blah, 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 blah. So it's just a list of theaters and when he played and when he moved to radio and TV and stuff like that. And his catchphrases, they are listed here. And his catchphrase, one of them is, Dame nano ne. And another one is, Dame nano yo. Dame nano yo. We can't do that. I guess that's a catchphrase. And all of these people have their catchphrases. They're listed on these posts all the way down the street. And it means nothing to me or whatever, but somebody in Japan here, well, a person my generation who watched TV in the 1960s or so would know this. Dame nano yo. It's whatever, very natsukashi. Anyway, you got it there. And the third one, this is the next door now. This is taken yesterday, day before. And this is the new sign outside. And we can't quite see it. Our camera is shooting up right below this sign. And if they had it out, if they had it rolled out, we would be able to see the bottom of this sign. Fukuya Baru. And it's their deal. It's beef and sake. Any more questions? We'll be pleased to try and answer in the next stream. I remembered that, so this one. And if you were trying to think in the West, what are the equivalents of comedians like this? And it would be stuff like, I guess, Jack Benny, Red Skeleton, those people who were big in vaudeville originally and then made the transition out of vaudeville into radio first, I guess, and then TV, and then died. And that's the kind of generation of people you are looking at on this street. So to young people now, they just walk by. These are completely meaningless names. But to Japanese, certainly of my generation, they know who these people are. And the street is where it all happened. All those theaters that they're mentioning there, they mentioned the Roxa, that's still there. It's right next door to Donkey. It's still a strip show. The girls that dance there these days, they're all very, very young, and they're all what do you call them? I don't know, DVD stars. I know. In fact, they tell them the guys go in there to the strip show. They take flowers, and the girls do their dancing, and then sell DVDs. Adult video. But far and away, most of the theaters are now gone. There's just those 3 or 4. There's the Roxa left. The Francis is gone. There's now the Toyokan. It's upstairs above the Enge Hall, the place where they do Rakugo. The Toyokan is still there, and it's busy on weekends still. And when people line up outside, there's not a black hair in the crowd. It's white here end to end of the crowd. Not a black hair in sight. This is difficult to green here. This is difficult without damaging this corner. Very recalcitrant grain in this corner. Either way, it doesn't want to go. So in that case, when the grain really doesn't want to work, you've got to push, push, push. The back of this chisel, I am pushing down like crazy. That's the way they handle the planes. I used to watch Shimano-san planing these blocks before. He's got the plane. He'll just pull it across. He's driving it, pushing it down into the surface. Same thing here. If I just let go of this chisel and push it forward, it'll scoop into the grain. But putting my finger on the top of it, keeping the angle low, and we're shaving. We're going against the grain here, but this is shaving. tough corner here. That'll do. It's dirtier than I'd like, but we can't help it. My chisel, when I was cutting a few minutes ago, my chisel went down too far because of that grain. So, are we missing anything important? I don't know. How's it going? Well, Dakugo, that's way over me. That's way past my pay grade, you know. The whole comedian thing here, you know, the older style Dakugo down the street, and then the kids in the next building to me here, who do the vaudeville type slapstick, you know. It's just, you know, I've never been into the theater to listen to it, not waste my time with it, but I hear them practicing out on the street. When you leave the building here from me, turn left, and when you go around the first corner, that's the back door to that theater. And the street is a narrow little bit of a quiet street. And the kids who are, you know, they're on stage next or whatever, or in a half an hour, they do their warm-up. They stand outside in the alley. They face the building opposite. They stand there, the two of them, with their faces to the wall, doing their gesturing, pretending that that's the audience and doing their shtick, you know. And you can see them. The one guy slaps the other guy in the head. It's straight man, funny man. It's pretty classic kind of stuff. And sometimes on the way, you know, I go down there to get to the Lawson, and you know, but I'll hear this as I'm walking by, and I don't get most of it at all. I understand some of the words because I speak Japanese, but like, why is that funny, or what was their gag relation to? And of course, they're full of references to what's going on, pop culture, and like a stand-up comedian anywhere, you know. If you're not hip to what's happening in the culture these days, then of course you don't get what a stand-up guy is talking about, you know. So. And there's lots and lots of cultural references there into that I don't get. TV, movies. And the other part of it is the what's the word? Not the bad language, the casual language. They're all speaking very, of course, very colloquially. And I almost never have a chance to hear that kind of Japanese language. You know. When people speak to me, they speak politely. And when I speak to people, that's all I know how to do. I speak politely back, because that's the only way I know how to speak Japanese. You know, so I've never lived with a family that's brutal to each other, you know, whatever. Family Japanese is rough, you know. Hontoni, it's rough, you know. That's one of the biggest problems for someone like me in that classic situation. Western guy marrying Japanese girl. There's a huge, huge fundamental problem with the language. I don't mean like English Japanese. I mean the way you use language. A Japanese wife and a Japanese husband, you know, completely Japanese couple, once they get to an age, once they're saying middle age, whatever, the way they speak to each other is really, really, to an outsider's ear, extremely rough. I guess whatever, the culture is what the culture is. People all behave in a normal way for the culture. Somebody expects stuff. But the problem is when you get a Western guy coming in who is sort of trained and would think of speaking politely to his female partner, and then she speaks in what's normal for her culture. She speaks really roughly and insultingly to him because he's supposed to get it. He's supposed to know how that works. You know, he's supposed to shoot back the same way. That can be a problem. It really, really was a problem for me. This is dangerous here too. That knot I said was here, so this is the area now around that knot where the grain goes every which way. Now we've got a line we want to keep here. This border line is going to stay. So let's isolate it here, cut it deeper than maybe normally would be necessary. And this is dangerous. This is dangerous. Uchi soto. So, in general, Japanese people will be, quote, more polite to somebody outside to a certain level. Then there's people outside that you don't care about at all, and you can be disrespectful to them. The balance between all these things, people you have to be respectful to and people you don't have to be respectful to, and what language you use, it's difficult. Hontoni, it's difficult. And it differs by class and by region. The lady, my partner, the mother of my kids, was a country girl, a real country girl from a real backwater. And the language out there, we spent the summer holidays out there, it was rough, So for her to speak to me in that way, in English, because, she was just picking up the English words, but using her own idea of what was a normal level of politeness. And it was a huge problem. In other ways, the way that people speak to their kids too, and I was an anomaly there. The way I've done that all my life doesn't match in any respect the Japanese system. For me, from the day the kids were born, I just sort of spoke to them like normal people. In Japan here, it's I forget the Japanese expression for it. The women put on the high-pitched voice. They speak to kids like they're little babies. Even kids 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 or 4, 5, 6 years old, whatever. They just keep speaking to kids in that high-pitched little tiny voice using baby language. That drives me crazy. So I spoke to my kids as adults. Just spoke to them in the same way. I think this is a Canadian thing, maybe, whatever. Canadians will do this. They will speak to the kid and the wife and the neighbor all pretty much in the same way. And you might consider it bland, boring, whatever. But the way I spoke to the neighbor's wife and my own wife was actually essentially the same. And that was difficult for my wife to comprehend, Oh, keep quiet, Dave. Just carve this. This is tough. You can hear it. This is rock hard. This section, this corner of the block is so hard. And the other day, when we were testing and comparing blocks, we were using this part. Aoyama-san and I were here, and we were just, carving here, and he's going, wow, that's cool. And we're comparing it to the next one he was trying to make, So we were using this as a standard. Aoyama-san, this is what I want. But we just don't have it. Am I using the same chisels Goompla builders and modelers use, right? I don't have any idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry. No idea. These chisels, this group of chisels right now, are what is known in the West as bullnose chisels. In the East, they're Aiski. They're flat on the top, and they're slightly rounded. You see the shape there? They're rounded in both ways, rounded this way and rounded this way, so that they roll along the wood. And there's a curious thing about this. One day there was a guy here who was a Japanese carpenter. And it's funny because Japanese carpenters use this side of the chisel. The flat side of the chisel is their key point. Like a furniture maker in the West, if you're cutting a mortise or something, you've got your hole, you're tapping your chisel into it. It's the flat side of your chisel that is the active side. The bevel is that's where the wood throws away and cuts away. And with us, it's the other way around. The active side of this chisel for me is the bevel side. It's the bevel that I work on, the angle of the bevel, the curve of the bevel. This is what's key to us, and this is the part that faces the wood that you're retaining. And the flat side of the chisel, that's where the wood flies away. But for most woodworkers in most fields, in most countries, chisels work the other way around. It's the flat face of your chisel that is the active side, because in most cases people are cutting flat surfaces, pieces of wood, mortises, whatever, you name it. But because our work is three-dimensional, I guess that's part of the reason here. Lots of action out there, but I can't see what's going on. I can't see in the camera, and I can't see from the window, so I don't know what's going on out there. And now in this area around the knot, this is where the wood grain gets really crazy. This is where 30 years ago Dave would have just been crapping up everywhere, just making mistakes everywhere. Slow and steady, and the top pressure, lots of pressure on the top of the blade. And of course, little by little. How's our time? Nearly 9. We do have a show and tell today, about 9:15 or so we'll show. Today's show and tell today is by request. The last few days we've had a sort of a theme to the things we've been showing over the past few days. It was related to the work of Okada-san, who passed away last month. So there's something else this morning that we're going to start with that is related to his stuff. And then we'll segue into something else. And this is a request. It's something I started to show the other day and just flipped past it and didn't get involved with it. But somebody, wrote me an email and said, look, I'd like to know more about that. You just flipped past it really quickly when you were doing the show and tell the other day. But oh my God, tell me more. So that's what we're going to look at this morning. Requests. I guess we can take requests. I never really thought about it before, but if they're for me, there is a sort of a problem developing with the show and tell. Problem's the wrong word, but whatever it is. And I don't know what I've showed and what I haven't, because this stream has now been, we've been doing this for nearly 4 years. Come this next summer, it's going to be actually 4 years this Twitch stream has been up. And I didn't keep track of the stuff that I've presented when I was, when I've been presenting the show and tell. Does it matter? I don't know, because obviously we've got many, many people here who are new and who haven't seen this before. So if I repeated something from 3 years ago, it really isn't going to matter, I guess. But I don't know. What have we got there? What kind of truck is that? No idea. No idea. A black flatbed. Why would we see? He's come to pick up the blue bicycle. It's the bicycle collection truck, maybe. I don't know. We should just forget about the carving and just put the cameras up outside. Get 2 or 3 cameras up outside. Just go for it. Who needs woodblock printing? I'm still also semi-amazed that we haven't had any trouble with this camera, I'm not supposed to be doing this, but nobody has mentioned, nobody has given us trouble. Nobody has complained. Yeah, live webcams are live webcams, and cultures are cultures, what they are. But here in Japan, to put a camera that's live in a place where individual people can be discerned, like individual faces, that's Mrs. Smith or whatever, what the point being. This is what is, I think, not cool. I don't know about the letter of the law. I'm talking about the general cultural acceptance of what we're doing here, If I had asked to do this, nobody, the neighborhood association, the local police department, the neighbors, if I had all asked people, none of them would say, yeah, go ahead, it's okay, I don't mind. Everybody would say, I don't know, privacy, I don't know. So I'm not talking about the letter of the law, we're talking about cultural acceptance and stuff like this. So If this was up on the roof, like we had it before, we had it on the third floor, and we shine down on the ground, and you can really not tell who is who so much. That's much more okay. And there's a couple of them in Asakusa in this area like that. But down at street level, it's a different story. So we'll see. As I said, nobody has actually complained. So. Okay, moving along. You can see how it works, it's pretty efficient, bit by bit by bit. What have I been doing? Half an hour or so on this. That's all done. That's done up to there. That's done. Just keep working away around here. We're okay for time still, are we? What is it? 9:04, no problem. Jogged me about 9:15 or so. The bike is still there. I have no idea now. I'm at sea. This blue bike, I have no idea. The original theory that it was just something left by a drinker last week, but that's a week ago to show, so I don't know. There's nobody, staff next door yet. They don't start, somewhere around the time we're finishing the streams, when the time they start to show up to open up and, get the coffee machine going and stuff like that. So maybe the bike is one of their staff members. I don't know. We'll see. And also from today, things are going to change in Tokyo. The state of emergency has finished as of last night. So Tokyo is now sort of officially back to normal. And we know what that means. There's now going to be another burst of infections, but whatever, that's the way these things go in all these countries. But the state of emergency is over. But they have still put, these are all voluntary, but they've put voluntary restrictions on the restaurants and bars. As of the last few weeks, they've been forced to close at 8 o'clock. But now that the state of emergency is over, that rule is gone, and they're now being asked to close at 9. Don't stay open any longer than 9. So it's going to be fun the next few days to watch and see what happens around here, which of the bars decide to voluntarily go along with this, and which say, screw you, Jack, I've been closed for so long, I need the money, and away we go. So I don't know how it's going to go. We'll see. They've been getting paid, of course. Those that complied and closed at 8 o'clock, they've been receiving payments based on the size of their business and stuff like that. That's going to continue. The government is shoveling out insane amounts of money to the restaurants and bars. Insane. We're closed. We get nothing. It's okay. We're not part of that. Whatever. Moko Hong Kong being closed at the moment now, it's a completely voluntary activity. There's no government edict forcing us to be closed, other than the fact that they are not allowing our customers to come into the country, but whatever. So we're not shut down. but we are shut. I guess you would have seen the blog post I made, whatever, the other day about Sakai Kokodo, the woodblock print shop in the next block. You can actually see them from here. It's you see where to the right of the sky tree, there's a big building in the distance. There's a white sign. Just below that white sign, the shops in that distant row. That's the other woodblock print shop in this district. And at the end of last month, well, they've been closed like me. They've been shuttered for a long, long time, but they have now taken the decision to actually give it up. I guess they've made the same sort of calculation as I have in terms of when they think people are coming back, and it is not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a long time before people come back, but they don't have what we have, the online background. So for them, it was just, they had no choice. It's just rent, and no incomes, zero. Our income is back to pre-COVID levels, so we're okay, even though we've got this huge rent for this space here. We can cover it. But those guys didn't have that option, so out they go. We're going to try and buy their inventory. They're not out of business. They're still in business. They're a massive organization. They started in Meiji time. They are rich. We're nothing. We're fleas. They are rich people. These are the same people who own and operate the Japanese ukiyo-e museum up in Matsumoto. They have a huge collection of ukiyo-e behind them. They've been nibbling away, selling from it for decades now. No, they're not in trouble as far as collapsing and whatever, but they have just taken the decision to close that shop. They've done this over the years. They used to have a shop in front of the Imperial Hotel. I was in there one day with my daughter and I was talking to them. They closed that some time back, so this is not anything really sort of out of the ordinary for them. They go with the flow. They have opened and closed shops at different areas in Tokyo over the years as the patterns have changed. I don't know their internal financial structure, but there's no reason to think that they're in trouble and they're going to, go bankrupt. Just they have taken the decision to shut this retail outlet. And I think the museum there up in Matsumoto, they get tons of support, probably from the Nagano Prefecture and from the Culture Ministry. So no, I don't believe they're in trouble. If I gave it the wrong way, I'm sorry. But no, they have a massive collection, massive collection. And as far as buying their stock, they have nothing that I would want. This is the place that sells junk copies of The Great Wave, absolute junk copies, and they sell. Most of what they sell in that shop actually is not woodblock prints, it's printed matter. I mean, they're famous for their Hiroshi Yoshida prints, which are all color copies. So no, there's nothing there for me, nothing at all. And in one small sense, their closing is going to make life a little bit easier for me next year when the tourists do come back. Because we did have experience once a week or so, whatever. Somebody would have come into our shop last year, 2019, They've got some prints in their hand. They've come into our shop, looked around and said, "Oh, this is your place. I just bought a bunch of prints in the next block," because they came from Sensoji, hit a woodblock print shop, and they thought, of course, that's Dave's shop. They go in there, Japanese staff, Dave's not there, whatever. They don't expect Dave to be there every day. Can't read the Japanese lettering up on top, so they just buy some prints and they thought it was me. And this happens again and again and again and again. And what can I do? I can't, whatever. I can't do anything about that. It's not that I did something wrong, whatever. And they're not pretending to be me. They don't do that, but just they are there. So this happened many, 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 many times. So that shop is gone now, so that will reduce the incidence of, what's the word? Mistaken identity, There was some stuff, and we had to change our policy on that. When that first happened to us, the first few times this happened, me and the staff were like, "Oh, can I see what you got?" and stuff like this. Open the package, let me see what you got. We thought this was cool. We learned very quickly, don't do that. Don't do that. But there were any number of times they'd open the package and show us, and it's a color copy of a Yoshida Hiroshi print. And they didn't know this, like, oh my God. And I do not want to be in the situation of saying, you were cheated, go get your money back and stuff. That's no way for me to survive in this community. So we instituted a policy here between me and the girls in the shop. If somebody comes in with a package from the other print shop, do not mention it, don't talk about it, don't ask them what they got, don't do anything. Just keep quiet. They're not evil people, just they're running their business in a different way, and they're giving customers what they want, attractive stuff, blah, 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 blah. I think we're good to go down at the bottom here now. Get into this thicket around here. Show and tell time. Okay, 9:15. Fair enough. Show and tell, show and tell, show and tell. Okay, as I said, we're going to start this with something we saw the other day. I put a book on the table. Excuse me, I got a catch in my throat. I'm dying. We've got a folder of prints here. We've got a big folder of prints. But before we look inside this, before we look at this, one thing, the other day, I put this book on the counter here. It was a book. We were talking about Okada Yoshio's prints, and I had mentioned what to buy and what not to buy. And this was the book that, if you can find it, this is a good book that has a reasonable number of Okada-san's prints inside it. And as I was flipping through it, it happened to fall open for a second at this page, and I didn't stop, but I just flipped through. And somebody sent an email. This is the character called Akashi from the Genji Monogatari. And this image of Okada-san's didn't get turned into a woodblock print by the people in Japan here. But Dave, who had this book back in the 1980s and who talked about this on a video, I put this in one of my YouTube videos, I did myself try and make a woodblock print of this image, tracing from this book. I had no permission to do so, and it didn't matter. I wasn't trying to sell anything. So I took Okada-san's design, what do you think of this lady? I don't know. I don't know. Talk about a high-maintenance girlfriend. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Anyway, there she is. She is what she is. This is Akashi from the Genji Monogatari. So Dave is sitting there in Canada back in this would be 1981. I've got this book. I'm trying to practice to make prints. So I used this. And in the book, the back of this book here, there's a bunch of single sheets of paper. These are scraps of paper printed and proofed from when I was making this. I cut the key block first in my clumsy, funny way. And I tried making color separations, and these are some carbon paper. I had carbon paper rubbed on the blocks to try and make prints. Anyway, this became visible the other day at the end of the stream. So someone said, Dave, show us the print. So that's what I've done today. That's the background. The folder I've brought down today is the folder of the early prints I made back in Canada before I came over here to Japan. And there's a few pages of them here. There's 1, 2, 3. Let's pull that one out. And here we are. This is an Okada Yoshio reproduction. Don't ask, because no one's going to get this. This isn't going anywhere out into the world. But this is one of Dave's early experiments here at making. I think this book, as somebody said, we have seen this on show and tell at some point before. But here we are. This was my attempt to try and make woodblock prints. And I don't know anything about carving. I don't know anything about printing. It's all opaque pigments. It's watercolor pigments with opaque stuff. The piece of wood I had was too small for what I wanted to do. It wouldn't fit, or I had made a mistake when I was enlarging it or something. So the registration should have been at the corner, but the piece of wood wasn't big enough. So Dave had to chop a piece out and put it in the registration mark at the back. And look at this. This is what was I thinking? I don't even know what I was thinking, but I bought myself a stamp, and I stamped the back of these things. Whatever, you saw it in the video, you saw this. I wrote a letter to Okada-san saying, can I sell these? I sent him one, or whatever, 1 or 2, and sent him. And he wrote back that super, difficult, polite letter saying, okay, but only if you limit it to whatever it was, 300 or something, and only if you pay me X thousands of dollars in advance or something like this. So he put conditions on the table that were simply too big for me to be able to handle, and he knew that. I mean, they're an absolute mess. I sent this to the guy saying, do you mind if I make some and sell them? It's an absolute crappy mess. But hey, we all got to start somewhere. And now that Okada-san's gone, I mean, we talked about this the other day, the idea is on the table that absolutely, more of his prints should be turned into woodblock prints. More of his designs should be turned into woodblock prints. Absolutely. So stay with us, keep on it. It's not going to happen tomorrow. I would do that. That one, I would do that right now. Not this same size. I would make it bigger. We could now do this. The question is going to be getting permission. Hey, can you imagine if I had a print of this? Resources. Another one here. This is a mess. I shouldn't show these. It's okay. I can, these are bad. It's about as bad as they come. It's okay. I'm not ashamed of them. At the time, I knew I was clumsy, but I was working on it. Also, I can tip this off, I guess. This print, the design you're looking at now, Ogata Korin, is in our current catalog, properly made, and there's a new edition of it coming out next month. We're reissuing this design in a totally different format next month. This one was a design from A. Yoshida, one of our family friends. She did dyeing on silk, and she ran up this design for us, and I did it as a New Year's card. Do I still have the blocks for all these? Yes, I think most of the blocks for all these are still in the cupboard over in Ome. I think most of the blocks are there. This one too, but no. Not possible, not going to happen. This was the second one. The first one doesn't exist, but this was the second one. And here we are, the mistakes I was telling you about today, in the clearing stage, when you're clearing this thing, this is what was all over the place. Clipping and banging, knocking it out. It was just impossible to do the clearing. This is number 2. Number 2. Back then when I was doing this, I didn't understand clearly that it was, the Japanese system was different people doing different parts of the job. I was still thinking, man, Hokusai, he carved all that stuff. I didn't know. Like most Westerners, I was thinking, you see a Hokusai great wave, you assume Hokusai made it. No, of course not. I didn't know that. So I was still struggling. Because I was no good at designing, let alone being no good at carving and printing. I was also no good at designing. And I was trying to sit this all by myself. And the same thing, just chip, pops, cracks, chip, pop, cracks everywhere. This was on good cherry. This was wood that I got from Yuyudo. The Saiki-san, who is the owner of Yuyudo, he sold me and gave me some more pieces of wood. This is Dave badly being influenced by Walter Phillips. At this time I had seen the Walter Phillips prints. He had a sense of how to draw. I didn't. We're coming together bit by bit on how to put color on paper, but there's just no point to it. Just absolutely no point to it. This is maybe the first good one. These are both from the same piece of wood. Adachi-san, the time he threw me out of his building, he gave me a piece of wood, and it's this size. And these 2 prints are carved on the back and front of that piece of wood. And I was doing okay. Very big difference, step by step. I was dramatically improving, hontoni, print by print by print. And by this time now, I had understood that you didn't have to do your own designs. You could simply be a carver and a printer. You didn't have to try and design. And that was a huge relief for me. Concentrate on making prints. Don't worry about the fact that you're not a designer. And they're so clumsy now, to look at them now. Every line is clumsy. Every line has breaks and pops. The lines that are supposed to be smoothly curved are not. It's okay. I'm not, sackcloth and ashes here, but it's, at least I could see it. I could see it, when this happened, I carved it and printed it. I could see it, and it meant that next time, okay, Dave, look at this, try and be more careful next time, the gap here. So it's no problem that it's bad. The fact that it was improving, that's the key point. We can never publish this now, just it's full of ugliness, Well, I thought it was so good. The things that I'm now pointing out as being ugly, I didn't really understand them. I didn't really know how bad it was, But it's okay. Together with your skill at carving comes skill at being able to recognize, Anyway, that's it. So this was a fun one. This was from Hokusai painting. I had a book of Hokusai paintings. So Dave here is trying to hack away at painted lines. Again, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. I really don't. Well, I do know why, because I was thinking about trying to sell them, As I was making these things, I actually tried. I went to a couple of, what do you call them? Craft fairs. This is like 1983, 1984, and it's Vancouver, and there's craft fairs. So Dave booked a table at a couple of these things, took some of these prints out there, and I put them up there for $5 or $10 or something. I don't even remember, Not this one, but the other ones. And I put them up there and tried to sell them. I actually did sell a few, There are people in the Vancouver area now, maybe 10, 12 people. I don't know. I don't have any records of it. There are people who actually have some of these. There are people who've got some of these. Which ones did I sell? I didn't sell this stuff. These were silly. The ones I sold were the reproductions, you know, because I wasn't stupid enough to try and sell my own art. I would have sold some of these, I think, a few of them. And then the ones I just showed you now, this pair, I think, I sold a few of these. So there's out there. There's a dozen or so of these early bold prints out there somewhere. I did a craft show in Langley, one in Aldergrove, one in Surrey, somewhere. So somewhere in the lower mainland in Vancouver, there's a bunch of my prints. Wait till they show up on Antiques Roadshow. I don't know. Hopefully not till I'm gone, because I sure don't want to see them again. So. And this was fun too. We've got the block for this, and the wood is magnificent. It's an absolute magnificent piece of wood. I feel a bit guilty that I destroyed it, but whatever. It's all part of the learning process. And we see the same thing. Again, this is funny because it's the same job I was doing this morning. Look at the pops. Look, break here, break here. This is the thing. I had carved them with my knife, and you're coming in here with your chisel, like you saw me doing this morning, coming in here with your chisel. And if it's not carved deeply enough, the chisel comes in and off comes that line. Everywhere. There's 1,000 of these pops and breaks on this same image. Thick, fat lines. It's okay. It's okay. If I had never got any better, did I miss to carve a line in the floor? I don't know. Is there something missing here, you mean? I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't know. Either it broke for me and I took it out, or there isn't one in the original. I don't know. You'd have to compare. The original is out there. So I look at this, the tiny holes in the squares thing. I did it. And this is at a time too when I didn't know how to sharpen my knife. So I'm like, I've got my knife and it's getting duller and duller and duller and duller. And like sharpening, what do we do? You know, what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. I don't remember. Whatever. Anyway, just a few. It's, what is it? A blast from the past. And the one that has meaning and has relevance is the Okada-Yoshio one. And like I said, at some point, we will properly bring this one to life. Not at a small size like this. We will enlarge this, and one day, we will have this available. One day. Okay, here we are. It's now Monday. I'm now off for 3 days. I am heading tonight, or maybe tomorrow morning, depends on the weather, if it's pouring rain or not. I'm heading to Ome. I have maintenance work to do there. We've got to take down the winter windows. I have to work on their inkjet printer, reverse feed inkjet printer. I've got to go to the tax office to pay my taxes, or to file my taxes. So I'll be out of here for a few days. I will be back as scheduled, I believe, Thursday morning for me, Wednesday morning for most of you. And because I'm going to Ome, it's a chance. I will be able to bring back some folders from the Ome workshop. So the show and tell over the next couple of weeks is probably going to be things that I pick up from Ome. Okay, there we are. Thank you very much. I got a lot of work done this morning. Thank you. See you in a few days. Thursday morning for me, Wednesday for you. Let's pop up the outside. It's going to be a nice day, maybe. Pouring rain yesterday. Going to be a nice day. But it was so windy last night. You see farther down the street, there's another bicycle fallen over. It was gusty, gaily stormy last night. Okay, signing off now. See you on Thursday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.